Welcome to chapters 10, 11, and 12 of the Turning Pro Book Club, found at go.fsbb.io. Let's get into it. We got a couple chapters to talk about: the shadow life, addicted to love, and habits. Let's jump right in. In the shadow life, we live in denial, and we act by addiction. We pursue callings that take us nowhere and permit ourselves to be controlled by compulsions that we cannot understand or are not aware of, and whose outcomes serve only to keep us caged, unconscious, and going nowhere. The shadow life is the life of an amateur. In the shadow life, we pursue false objects and act upon inverted ambitions. The shadow life is the life of an amateur and the addict. It's not benign. The longer we cleave to this life, the farther we drift from our true purpose, and the harder it becomes for us to rally the courage to get back. I think in a lot of ways, a lot of people can feel like they're far too gone in their career, far too gone in that decision, far too far in that lifestyle. I tell you, we can always extract ourselves. Chapter 11, Addicted to Love. I have a friend who's addicted to love. I can relate to this addiction myself. I've known her my whole life, and it's absolutely excruciating to listen to the chronicles of her romances. She migrates from one passionate, all-consuming affair to the next. She's in agony throughout the affair, and the affair always ends in agony. It will not surprise you, I'm sure, when I report that this woman is one of the most gifted, talented people I've ever met. She's a piano prodigy. Her photographs win prizes, and she's near a world-class athlete as she has swum the Maui Big Island open ocean, crossing half a dozen times. Over the years, my friend has developed a philosophy, you could almost call it a religion, about pursuing the sublime through love. This philosophy is so complex and so convincing that she can not only persuade herself of its reality, but if you or me, too, if we were to sit long enough and listen to her, she is mesmerizing. At the same time, the experience is bone-numbingly tedious, watching her transit from one great love to the next, with each drama playing out to be exactly the same cadence, and each one culminating in exactly the same dead end. My friend knows this is resistance. We've talked about it 100 times. She's running away from her gifts, and she knows it, but the habit is too strong. She has become identified with it. It's who she is. Chapter 12, Habits. This book is about habits. The difference between an amateur and a professional is in their habits. An amateur has amateur habits. A professional has professional habits. We can never free ourselves from habits. The human being is a creature of habits, but we can replace bad habits with good ones. We can trade in the habits of the amateur and the addict for the practice of the professional and the committed artist or entrepreneur. It may help as a jumping-off place to consider the interior world of the most passionate and tragic creature of habit, the addict. This is tough, my friends. Some more tough words that we need to hear from Pressfield today. Many of us live in a shadow life where we are not actually in control, where our habits and our addictions move us through the process of life, through the process of the day, and we are still in the same daggone place. I can tell you many times in which there have been moments in life where I felt like I was an automaton going through the day. It's not that I was an addict per se, but the schedule and the habits were so clear-cut, so programmed into me, that in some of those days I felt like I didn't really have a purpose. I was just following the script, following the code. But if we don't take stock of our habits, if we don't look at what we're doing, we will continue to do this till the day that we die. And this is the nature of this one example that Pressfield gave here with this woman addicted to love. I'm sure many of you have experienced something similar to this, where it's so consuming. You already know the story. You have the gut feeling. You haven't trusted your gut. You already knew how it would end, but you did it anyway. in the ramifications of that bad decision that you've already been down, that road that you've traveled down so many times, the end is always the same. Your habits dictated the cause and dictated the outcome. We cannot be addicts, my friends. Addicts are people who have uncontrolled habits, and they allow those habits to run rampant. So, a couple questions for us today as we're thinking about turning pro. Number one, have you ever been addicted to something? I know I have. I don't have an addictive personality per se. My wife might disagree with me on that, but I have been, and it's all consuming. Number two, have you ever been obsessed with something? How did it affect you? Same idea. Kind of leads us to rash decisions, if you know what I mean. Number three, do you have a habit that you need to stop? Now, this is an introspective question. I'm sure we can all come up with at least one idea of something we probably need to stop right now. And fourth, this is a tough one. Has your habit become your identity? This right here is something that I feel that many, many people get caught up into, in that they've grown a habit. It could have been not a big deal. It could have been something that could have been completely harmless from its inception. But yet this habit grew and grew and grew into this monstrosity where it grew into lifestyle. It grew into other habits. It grew into a career. It grew into daily patterns. It grew into relationships. And now this habit has become your all-consuming identity. I know people in this position right now. They're floating around in my brain. And I pray for these people because they're stuck. They're in a perpetual state of cognitive dissonance. They're 20 years deep in this career, and they absolutely hate it. They abhor it. They're a hair trigger away from blowing their brains out. But yet, this is what the world knows them to be, and they're stuck. I tell you, my friends, the answer is you can change. Remember the first chapters. It's all a decision. You want to go pro? Decide today. Let me know your comments in chat. Let me know your comments in the community at go.fsbb.io. I'll see you guys there.